Continuing along the first ideal villain series for DC characters, since a lot of people seem to be liking it, we're going to be moving forward with Nightwing, which is a character I've seen requested a couple of times now. I think it would be very easy to sit here and say, oh, I think Nightwing's first ideal villain should be Deathstroke. And there are plenty of reasons why that would work almost perfectly, and if anyone were to say that, I couldn't even fault them or blame them, because that is technically in a lot of ways one, if not really, his arch nemesis. But I'm not going to go in that direction. Just because you have an arch enemy does not mean that needs to be your first enemy. The way I imagine it is Dick Grayson has been Nightwing for the past couple of months. The Teen Titans have more or less disbanded. He has let go of his relationship with Bruce Wayne. That is not something that lasts forever, but I think at this point in time in his life, he has gotten to a breaking point with Bruce. He has specifically moved to Bludhaven to get away from everything Batman in general. This is somewhat a new beginning for the character, so that he can become his own persona and he can protect a city that needs protecting in his own ways, his own image of what it means to be a hero without being plagued by what Batman would do. So the very first villain I'm going to be giving Nightwing is Professor Pyg and the Circus of Strange. Now, Professor Pyg over the past couple of years has been heavily relegated to being a Batman villain, and I don't think there's any problem with that. I think Professor Pyg is 100% a character who can bounce back and forth between Batman and Nightwing. Professor Pyg's origins is very mysterious. It wasn't until the New 52 where they introduced this idea that he was an agent of a rogue organization called Spiral, which was actually being led by a neo-Nazi. Whereas that origin is going to be intact for the character, I do want to dive just a little bit deeper to when he was even younger than that, about a mid to late teen. Professor Pyg, or who he would have been, a young Laszlo at the time, has mental disabilities. He's not all there. Also, he has physical disabilities. And I would imagine that growing up as a child, as a teen, he was bullied and made fun of because he has a regular appearance of a pig. This version of Professor Pyg is going to have a distant connection to Dick Grayson. Laszlo was part of Halley's circus, the same circus that Dick and his parents were part of. Being a teenager with mental and physical disabilities, he was disowned by his parents at a very young age, and the only place that would take him in, and the only place that really someone like Laszlo would fit in properly with, is a circus. Laszlo would spend his years traveling with the circus, being awe-inspired by how some of the members who are part of the circus are capable of utilizing their talents to make the people who come to their shows feel filled with joy, clap, or even be in shock and awe themselves. However, even being part of the circus, somewhere that a lot of people would claim is a perfect situation for freaks, as mean as that sounds, he was never really accepted or noticed by anyone. In fact, a lot of Laszlo's time would have been spent around the farm animals that the circus carries along with them, especially the pigs. Laszlo, however, was also quite skilled in medical procedures. Whenever someone in the show or throughout their travels might have gotten injured, Laszlo would be the first person they would bring them to get them patched up. Throughout his years being part of this circus, he would watch from afar the gracious maneuvers of Dick Grayson and his parents, always being shocked that a human being could move in ways that they move. There's kind of a glory and a reputation that Laszlo sees in the Graysons that he wish he had himself, or even had with a family of his own. Now, that's really just step one. There are so many more things that would happen in his future that would bring him into close connection with wanting to kill people and redesign their bodies to be perfect, or his love to classical music. Those are a lot of details we could go into if this was a video about about retelling the origin of Professor Pyg. Let's just put it this way. Haley's circus does come to an end, the Graysons are killed, and these characters become who they are destined to become. Fast forward to when Dick Grayson is now Nightwing. There is an event happening in Bludhaven where they are bringing in a Circus of Strange. This is supposed to be a citywide event. 5 different pop-ups of this circus is going to be utilizing venues around the city. Since I do envision this story that Dick Grayson is trying to move away from Batman, I do want it to go to show that even though he's moved to a different city, he's not escaping how gruesome the city of Gotham truly is. Because in Bludhaven, things can get just as worse. I want, in a lot of ways, Nightwing to feel as if he can't truly escape his past, all at the same time feeling at home in Bludhaven, because I've seen many disturbing things like this when I was Robin in Gotham. When these circuses end up opening, they allow enough time for as many people to enter these facilities before completely shutting their doors and trapping in innocent civilians. On the surface, it seems pretty simple, but what Nightwing has to do is he actually has to go into each circus and solve clues, which each circus location is being protected by a particular hitman or mercenary. How each circus somewhat differs is not just how they look, it's designed to be a specific place or an event. The pig dolls are all designed to look and even be a little bit different than others. Nightwing is starting to realize that a lot of the clues he's uncovering, which is helping him move forward to the final circus, is details encapsulating his entire life. Whoever has set up this circus has indeed set it up for him. Somebody has been keeping very strict and keen details on how he has grown up and progressed. Nightwing's guard will now be heavily heightened because he knows that this is a personal matter. He does not know who has been watching him, and he feels at one point this could be Deathstroke just playing around with him and fooling him, but he's never seen these pig dolls before. They're demented and terrifying in every single way, and he doesn't even think that Deathstroke would go this far to do something this horrendous. So along with those clues that Nightwing would solve, he would also have to enter certain trials, which would allow him to move on to the next circus. And like I said, every circus would have a particular character safeguarding it that would try to stop Nightwing from moving forward too quickly. Professor Pyg would possibly employ certain people like Brutal, Vigilante, Lady Vic, Double Dare, Tarantula. There's a lot of really good options here. If Dick Grayson hasn't been exposed to some of those characters, this is now a great opportunity for Nightwing's Rogues Gallery to expand without those characters being too involved in the story or overshadowing Professor Pyg. As Nightwing would make his way through the circuses, he would get to the final circus. It is revealed to be an almost perfect replication of Haley's circus. When entering, there is no one around. It's almost a ghost town. Dick starts to relive a lot of memories of his childhood. A lot of the stands and the games that he remembers being littered around the circus are all in their perfect positions. As he walks through the circus, there is of course a lot of classical music that's playing over a PA system. The music of course leads him into the main tent. As he walks in the middle of the tent on the ground, shining a spotlight on it, are 2 deceased people, a man and a woman, dressed up in the exact outfit his parents wore the day they died. Pyg would then reveal himself to Nightwing as if it's some sort of grand appearance that Nightwing is supposed to recognize who he is, and Nightwing just has no idea. It isn't until Professor Pyg somewhat explains in his very limited vocabulary of who he is, where it starts starts to clue in to Dick Grayson. The reason why Laszlo has such a deep connection to Dick Grayson, he has a very specific instance where, as a young boy, Dick Grayson and his parents, when walking through the circus, walked past Laszlo Valentine. Dick got frightened by his appearance and might have said something like ew or gross, whereas his parents would then say, "That's rude, you don't say that, apologize." And Dick Grayson just wouldn't apologize because he thought the appearance of Laszlo Valentine was so disturbing. You could easily say something like, well, that should just be forgotten as you get older. You don't hold on to grudges like that. Laszlo's no ordinary person. He's got mental problems that an instance like that would stick with him for the rest of his life. And then to add on top of that, whenever there were promotional banners or advertisements around the circus or outside in certain city limits promoting the Graysons, the word perfect was always used on their banners to describe how talented that family truly was in their acrobatic skill. Professor Pyg would allocate the word perfect to their being, how they looked, how they acted, the structures of their bodies and their face. That was the perfect representation of a human being for Laszlo. Believe it or not, it was actually very hard for someone like Laszlo to see Dick Grayson's parents die, in which now challenged his sense of what perfection was. So the whole point of dragging Dick Grayson here, it was the chance to offer Dick Grayson to be perfect. This is what your parents looked like the day they died. I can make you perfect too. It's a very corrupt and disturbing way of looking at things, but this is mainly because Laszlo never had any upbringing that would shield him from anything like this, his own mind, in fact. Nightwing does feel a little bad for how he treated Laszlo as a child and the fact that he didn't even remember who he was in the first place. He feels a little guilty, but that obviously does not mean he's just going to let him get away with this. He does have to stop him. What Professor Pyg ends up doing here to elevate the situation is a lot of the people who were stuck in specific circuses over the past couple of days, he has used them to turn them into mindless drones dressed up in raggedy versions of Robins and Batmans. This is kind of an ironic symbolism that no matter what Nightwing does, as I said earlier in the video, he will never be able to forget his past. He needs to start to accept where he came from, and in all honesty, what Bruce Wayne did for him to help him become who he is today. But what Laszlo has really done here is disturbing. All the gruesome and horrific medical enhancements he has done to these people just to send them after Nightwing. There's a lot here that Laszlo is going to have to pay for. Nightwing would take down all of these mindless drones that Professor Pyg tested on, and eventually he would come face to face with Pyg himself, where Nightwing would easily beat him and detain him. But what gets really interesting is when he takes off the mask of Professor Pyg, he himself did very brutal configurations to his own face, where he tried his hardest to make himself look even more like a pig. A very disturbing sight for Dick Grayson. But the interesting thing about it is the reason why Laszlo wears a pig mask over his own face is because he actually deemed the beauty of a pig mask to be more beautiful than the own face he created for himself. By the time this comes to an end, Nightwing realizes that the best place for Professor Pyg is Arkham Asylum. He helps transfer him to Arkham. This is also where Nightwing would decide to return to discuss with Batman and somewhat put their differences aside, trying to work on their relationship. for the better. However, this does not take away from the twisted misinterpretation of what Pyg has on perfection. As Pyg now has a lot of time to sit in his cell in Arkham Asylum, he starts to carve a lot of pictures on the wall where it is the body of a pig, but the wings of Nightwing's bird. And Pyg just starts to repeat over and over and over, pig with wings, pig with wings, pig with wings, in which it ends with him saying, perfect. So at the end of all of this, Professor Pyg's gruesome medical enhancement transformations have certainly not come to an end. But there you go, guys, Nightwing's first ideal villain. So you guys let me know in the comments below who you would have gone with, or simply put, what you thought of the story I created here. Also, leave in the comments below other characters that you would want to see me continue this series with. That is all I have for you on this video, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed it, and until the next time, I will talk to you all very soon.